So hi, everybody. I'm John Packles, and I'm here with Allison Ng. We are, as Erica said, from the MFA Design and Technology program at Parsons School of Design. And we have been working on an immersive storytelling experience titled While You Were Sleeping. So today, we're going to guide you through our concept for using spatial audio as a technology, the story that we applied it to, the process that we went through, and finally share the prototypes that came out of our exploration. So throughout the last few months, we have been focused on using spatial audio to bring visual storytelling to life. And this technology, we feel, has the power to make spaces feel close and intimate. It helps listeners pay attention to spaces that they otherwise might not encounter, and to components of scenes that they might otherwise ignore, which we feel is really well suited for journalism. But another goal of ours was to create something that was accessible to the average reader. So we wanted to leverage technologies that are already in use today and had low barriers to entry, but still wanted to push towards new uses for these technologies, really kind of in the spirit of the R&D team. So we started by just doing research on what examples are out there of audio in journalism. And, we have these traditional mediums of radio and television, but beyond the rising popularity of podcasts, we found that this field is severely underexplored in journalism, especially compared to visual counterparts.
So to kick off the project, we brainstormed what specific stories spatial audio is good for and realized it's best at drawing attention to things we overlook and transporting people to places they can't go. So at first we were thinking of stories ranging from the Olympics to the elections, but we also considered unexplored spaces in New York where we could have access to documentation. So from there, we settled on documenting Hunts Point Market. So the Hunts Point Produce Market is located in the Hunts Point Distribution Center in the South Bronx. It is the largest of its kind in the world, and over 60% of all produce in the New York metropolitan area goes through it before reaching its final destination. So for our first visit, we visited the produce market late one night when it's at its busiest. We went to explore the space and to collect visual and auditory assets, which include still images, 360 video, and voice memos. And we returned from the market to be compelled by the still photographs and came across the realization that immersive storytelling doesn't necessarily have to be high tech. So since our first visit to the market in February, we created 3 different prototypes that incorporate sound and spatial audio in different ways. So for our first prototype, we focused on creating a storytelling experience that combines the print edition of the Times and allows readers to immerse themselves in a photo essay. The flow of the story is guided by a mobile web app that provides access to the audio content and invites readers to listen and look rather than read. The interface of the web app and the nature of a newspaper spread allows for both linear and non-linear storytelling. And then the coronavirus hit. Systems that are normally invisible, like the food distribution network, suddenly became the center of attention. And therefore, we decided to keep the story, but to move it to an entirely digital format that focused on prototypes for desktop browsers. So we kept the integrity of the striking images by inserting 1 image per page above the fold. And in this second prototype, it included a story guided by a narrator, similar to a podcast. Each image was associated with an individual audio clip to allow for linear and non-linear exploration of the story once again.
So as we wrapped up testing for that last prototype, we realized that we had strayed pretty far from the spatial component of this project, which is really what we wanted to capture here. So for our final prototype, we designed an experience that lets a reader hear the space and not just be told about it. So with the same images that we captured at the forefront, we wanted to let readers navigate and discover the many layers of these images. So to do that, we highlighted the ambient sounds of the market recorded on our first trip. And as a side note, we recorded these clips originally as just documentation on our first trip, thinking that maybe it would come in handy one day, but given the circumstances, it ended up being the audio that we used for our final prototype. So there's 3 primary elements in the interface that create the spatial experience. So we wanted to keep it simple, allow for exploration, but also create some guidance through the story. So first, there's a map that serves as this visual anchor to contextualize the story within the market, as well as a subtle progress bar to contextualize the reader within the story. Second, each photo contains multiple sound clips that were recorded in the same space. So they're discoverable as the reader drags their cursor over small circles on each photo. The sound recordings are mixed so that the distance of the cursor from these zones determines the volume and clarity. So as an example, as the cursor gets closer to the trucks, I will hear more of the trucks. So we had plans to go back to the market with all types of 3D audio equipment. But again, we were left with these assets that we had captured on our phones. So we wanted to use this interface to turn these standard stereo audio recordings we captured with our phones into a more immersive 360-degree spatial experience. So depending on your cursor's relationship spatially to each zone, the position of the audio clip in 360 space will shift. So if the trucks are on the left of my cursor, I will hear the trucks as if they are to my left spatially. So this story starts at the familiar. It starts at a local grocery or bodega, and then moves to this market in the Bronx. So what you'll hear in a moment once we arrive at the market is the experience of the audio in the space. This is one of the nice things about going at this hour. It's such an easy drive. Okay, thank you so much. Where can we park? Okay. Okay, thank you so much. That's it. So for our next steps on the project, we would love to be able to complete the story once everything is back up and running and we can make a visit to the market. And we are excited about the application of this type of format to future times content. So we also just want to thank everybody that was in this process, both on the NYC Media Lab side and the New York Times side. It's been an amazing experience. So yeah, thank you very much.